Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, moni muli wanji, namaste, jambo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jadley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We are coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so delighted and so honored that you are joining us in our mission to help families grow closer through reading. Please be sure to subscribe to the show in the iHeartRadio app, on Amazon Music, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, Himalaya, wherever you find your podcast. Our guest today is LaKeasha Williams. She'll be here to celebrate Shine On Brown Girl. Before LaKeasha joins us in the studio and reminds us that different does not mean less than, such an important message for us to hear and for us to share with our kids, we want to make sure that you subscribe to the show so you don't miss an episode. We have some fantastic guests coming back to the show. Some really favorite guests are coming back. Jennifer Swanson, the Dean of all things STEM and STEAM, will be back here on the program in June. Matthew Paul Turner will be back here with a really powerful and emotional return to the Reading with Your Kids podcast. And tomorrow, Patricia Newman will also be returning to the show. And we have all sorts of wonderful new guests to introduce you to. I'm telling you, you don't want to miss an episode in June. Hey, in addition to subscribing to the show on your favorite podcasting app, you also want to subscribe to our newsletter. You can do that for free at readingwithyourkids.com. And you can also get your tickets, register for our free live podcast recording. It's happening on Zoom. You can attend virtually. It's happening just a few days from now, June 4th, 2 p.m. Eastern Time in the United States. Dr. Regine Meridian is going to be here to answer your questions on how you can best help your kids cope with the anxiety and stress they may be feeling, and you may be feeling too, as the United States reopens after this long pandemic. Check it all out at readingwithyourkids.com. Joining us right now from New York City and New York, our guest is here to celebrate Shine On Brown Girl. Please welcome to the Reading with Your Kids podcast, LaKeasha Williams. LaKeasha, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm really excited to have you on. It's I think that this is a great topic to talk about right now. Let's jump right into it. Tell us all about Shine On Brown Girl.
Shine On Brown Girl is a story that focuses on a little girl named Layla. And in the story, Layla's family reaffirms her greatness and the skin she's in all the time. However, one day at school, Layla becomes a victim of racism. And throughout the book, we see Layla's trials and tribulations, but also her perseverance.
I think that's really, really important. I love that you kind of highlight the fact that Layla has perseverance. She has strength. I'm assuming that means that she doesn't let the bullies and the racists keep her down.
Absolutely, because we definitely want to send that message out more than anything else, right? These things unfortunately do happen, but with the right family and just the right guidance, you will be able to persevere through anything.
Yeah. I'm assuming that some of this book might be autobiographical. Am I right in thinking that?
In some ways, yes. Absolutely.
Yeah. So if you don't mind, because I'm an almost 100-year-old white guy. So I don't know what it was like being a little girl in elementary school with brown skin and having people. I had people make fun of me for other reasons, but certainly didn't experience racism. Can you share a little bit about what that was like for you?
things that I feel in society we oftentimes gloss over because we feel like, oh, they're young and children don't necessarily get it. But I think it is extremely important to have these conversations as early as possible so that we help all children know and understand that just the importance of diverse cultures, right? Most importantly, though, for Black and brown children, because the reality is that as the minorities in this country, the messages that we're often bombarded with via media, et cetera, are not positive. And so little children internalize these messages, and oftentimes they view themselves in a negative light. So it is important for Black and brown children, to see themselves and particular situation that they've gone through represented in literature. So we want to get to a place where we're able to have these important conversations with our children and help them navigate through their feelings that they may have, or any misunderstandings, misrepresentations. We want to clear that up as early as possible. And it is important for it to be represented in literature, because a lot of times, our children do not, children's books do not depict the realistic situations of our children. And I wanted Shine On Brown Girl to be different. Like, these are real life experiences that our children go through. So the book is an ode to Black and brown children everywhere, and to let them know that they do matter, and so do their experiences.
So very, very important. We talk a lot here on the podcast about representation, about how important it is for books to be mirrors, windows, and sliding glass doors. And certainly it's important for kids to be able to see themselves portrayed positively in the pages of books. One of the things you said really hit me, in that a lot of the negative portrayals of people of color that we see in the media, that a lot of kids of color kind of accept that, and they take that on. Mm-hmm. Can you expand a little bit more about that?
Sure. I'll speak about what actually inspired Shine On Brown Girl.
Great.
Right. So as the principal of my famous school, Shine 399, we're always doing different empowerment activities. And when Kamala Harris became the vice president, talk about representation, right? Mm-hmm. I decided to recite the poem Brown Girl, to empower my students and affirm their greatness, because again, we do different things like this all the time with our children, because these are the children that's in my school community. But the video of us reciting the poem, that went viral. And it created such a firestorm of so many different things. On one side, there were many people who reached out to me. I did a story for an Italian news station. They wrote about us in a newspaper in India. And so what those different experiences confirmed with me is that many Black and brown women, children at large, feel invisible. We feel invisible. So to have Kamala Harris, someone that we feel look like us, hold the second highest seat in the country, it made us just so proud. And so as an adult woman, it made me proud. So of course for children, it was just like, wow. And so we did the video. It went viral. We had all of these people reaching out to me like, oh my God, thank you so much. Representation matters, because these people were happy. But then on a flip side, we also had, how dare you do that? But it just showed me the importance of representation and how important it is for Black and brown children to see themselves represented in a positive light, but then also on the larger scale, do it in such a way where I am helping all children, because all children have to pass through educators.
Mm-hmm.
So then therefore it's our job to make sure that we're helping children to see themselves in a positive light, but then also embrace diverse cultures.
Absolutely. Absolutely. One of the things you just said that really hit home with me is that a lot of the girls that you're speaking of think that they're invisible.
Mm-hmm.
What a horrible feeling
Mm-hmm.
that is. It reminds you, as you're speaking, we had Karen Parsons, who was a star on the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air on the program. She's now a children's author. And one of the things that she was talking about, she has a charity called Sweet Blackberry, I believe. And she was saying how there was an experiment done where little black girls were given the choice to play with a black doll or white doll, and there were so many of them chose to play with the white doll. Mm-hmm. And about a week later, I was in California at a Walmart, just getting some groceries for the hotel, and coming back, and there was a family in front of me, a man and woman with their beautiful young black daughter, and they had the girl picked up a Bratz doll. And there was there's two dolls. One of the dolls was white and one of the dolls was black. And the parents only wanted to buy one of the dolls, and they were really encouraging the little girl to buy the doll that looked like her. But she kept on pushing that away. And the whole conversation with Karen just kind of hit home. And I saw a pain on the parents' face that I saw. I could recognize as pain, but it wasn't something that I could totally understand. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it makes absolute sense, which is why Shine On Brown Girl is important. And it is the first book in the Shine On series, right? Where we are going to share the realistic experiences that our children experience for two reasons. Again, number one, so that they know they matter. Children have to know they matter. They have to see themselves in a positive light. But then also, too, to educate everybody, because we all live on this earth together. And it's important for us to understand, just to understand the experiences of what others go through, so that we can all join in this quest to make sure that we eradicate racism. Right? Mm-hmm. Because it's that thinking and that mentality which lends itself to systemic practices that we see throughout our society. But as an educator, my focus is, how do I help children? How do I help parents be able to overcome this, persevere through it, but in working together so that we're able to do our part. But again, it's those unintended messages that our children learn very early on, which is why it is very important that we make sure that we affirm the children who are in front of us. As an educator, I'm speaking from that perspective, because when children walk into a school building, guess what else walks in with them? Their language, their skin color, their cultures. So even that whole expression of, I don't see skin color. Well, that means you don't see me, right? You have to see skin color, because that is a part of who I am and my experience here in this world. So you have to see that, right? But again, we use it but see it in such a way where you see all of my glory, and you see all that I can be. But then most importantly, we have to see the social injustices that we know take place, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a moral imperative to make sure that we work together as mankind in order to just change the narrative. Like, that's my goal as a principal. We have to change the narrative. The narrative.
I'm absolutely 100% behind you. We talked, and just in this conversation, we talked a lot about how your book can be a great mirror for kids to see themselves portrayed in a very positive light, someone with real grit and resiliency and perseverance. How can it be used as a window? What kind of conversations can a white family have as they're reading Shine On Brown Girl together?
As they're reading Shine On Brown Girl together, first of all, the same way Black and brown children are learning from other cultures, again, to start there with just learning about the importance of seeing Black children as being beautiful. Like that may seem like so simple, but it's important. It's important that we plant those seeds very early on for white families as well. Like, this is acceptable. We also embrace, a culture that's different from ours, and different doesn't mean less than, different doesn't mean unworthy of, but it's something to be celebrated because we do have more similarities than differences. But we want to make sure that we're using this book as a springboard to the much needed conversation with parents and children around racism, because it is important to begin these discussions as early as possible. Again, sometimes we think that children don't see or they don't know, but as an elementary school principal, I'm here to tell you that I've seen and heard the interactions that children have with each other. And I do believe that if everyone is participating in these conversations, then we could start to see a shift in the way children embrace themselves as well as diverse cultures.
I love what you just said. I think it's so powerful. I want to repeat it. Different does not mean less than. Such an important message for everybody to hear, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm curious, as a school principal working in schools. I'm sure that you've seen. My wife has been a teacher here in the Boston system for over 33 years, and talk about she's certainly seen some changes in those 33 years. Have you noticed changes, especially you've mentioned about working with parents and families coming together, working on this together? Do you think families and parents are more open to working with teachers to kind of build this understanding? Is it better now than it was, or do we still have a real uphill battle?
I think that's relative, considering, the previous presidential administration. I mean, sure, it's better than, Harriet Tubman having to go on the Underground Railroad, but is it still a battle? Absolutely. It's still a battle. And again, these are the real life situations that we have to discuss, because I believe that you can't fix what you refuse to face. So when we're dealing with a murder trial, but the murdered victim is on trial as opposed to the murderer, then how better are we? But I do have an open mind, and I work a lot within my school community. I work a lot with principals across the city and with families from all walks of life. And I do believe that just from what we've witnessed with all of the riots that took place last summer from all around the world, I'm still going to hold out on hope, the hope that people are better overall in general, and are more open to really and truly coming together in order to eradicate some of these systemic racist practices that we know exist within our society, because it is going to take all of us working together in order to continue to make progress.
Now, you mentioned earlier on that Shine On Brown Girl is a series. Are we going to be meeting different characters in the series, or are we just going to follow Layla in different moments in her life?
We will meet different characters because, again, it's we want to depict as many different realistic situations as possible. and always use it as a springboard to just helping parents and educators alike to educate our children around racism and empower all of our children to be the change agents that's needed in our society. So I will be remiss as a principal if I'm not focusing on developing the next wave of change agents.
Yeah. Just one last question before we go. Teaching, you're a teacher, whether you're in front of a classroom or leading a school or being an author, but there are different types of teaching. How did you enjoy this type of teaching through the written word?
In terms of being an author or principal?
In terms of being an author.
I love it. I love it because when I think about it, it's so crazy because I actually began my educational career as a teacher's assistant. Right?
Wow.
So I have definitely been through every position. Teacher's assistant, teacher. I focused on special education for a little bit. I was a principal coach and assistant principal. So I've definitely been in all levels of education. And as I continue to evolve, like you said, it's still teaching. So even being an author is still teaching. I will forever be a teacher and forever doing my part to just make this world a better place for us all.
Wow. That's wonderful. What a journey going from teacher assistant to principal. Congratulations. That's wonderful.
Thank you so much for that.
Yeah. Tell everybody where they can connect with you on the internet, please, so they can find out more about Shine On Brown Girl.
Please follow me on my Instagram at principal_shine on LaKeasha. And that is LaKeasha spelled LaKeasha.
Wow. We've had a great time speaking to the author of Shine On Brown Girl, LaKeasha Williams. LaKeasha, thank you so very much for being part of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Please be sure to join us for the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be Patricia Newman. She'll be returning to celebrate her brand new book, Planet Ocean. That's the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Hey, if you are the author of a fantastic children's book, you want to check out our Reading with Your Kids Certified Great Read program. It has helped so many authors let folks know that their book is worthy of their consideration. You know, there are literally thousands of books published every single month. It's really hard for any book to stand out. Even books with a huge traditional publishing house behind it with publicists and advertising budgets, even those books can get lost in the shuffle. If you are a self-published or an indie author, if you are the author of a book that's being published by a small publishing house, you need some help. We can give it to you. If our panel believes that your book is worthy of 4 or 5 out of 5 stars, it becomes a certified great read. And with that status comes a number of really fantastic tools to help your book stand out from that crowd, to let families know that your book is worthy to become part of their family library. Check it all out today. Go to our website, readingwithyourkids.com. Click on the Authors Click Here button at the top of the page. Scroll on down to Certified Great Reads. I would like to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful. Of course, we want to start by thanking our guest, LaKeasha Williams. Please be sure to check out Shine On Brown Girl. Also want to thank my team, Alejandra Doherty, Fatima Khan, Helen Fraser, Justina Thompson. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.